While fleeing disaster, my elder brother, Ha Boichi, ignored our family's safety and insisted on taking in a mother and daughter of dubious origin. Later, that woman was abducted by mountain bandits and disappeared without a trace. My brother, blinded by infatuation, blamed me for not saving her, hating me to the bone. Years passed. News spread that he had passed the highest civil examination with top honors. I thought our family might finally see better days, but what awaited me was only his cold indifference and the cruel revenge of Bai Yuanqing, the woman clinging to his side. Reborn again, I no longer wished to work myself ragged so he could take the exams. If all he ever cared about was his precious Yuanqing, then I, this younger sister, would step aside. Even when I was dying, I never understood why Ha Boichi, who was so filial to our elders and affectionate toward his younger siblings, could abandon his own kin for the sake of one woman. Misfortune struck our family again and again. People died or were crippled. I led my second uncle and little brother, our only survivors, to the capital to seek his help. But I never imagined he would entangle himself with Bai Yuanqing once more, even allowing her to torment me to her heart's content. I was dragged before Bai Yuanqing, forced to kneel in the mud. My hair was in disarray, my face caked with filth. Supported by her maid, Bai Yuanqing stepped forward and planted her foot on my head, her twisted expression gloating. Han Yan, you've finally fallen into my hands. From the day I was humiliated, I swore I'd make you wish you were dead. If I struggled, a rough wooden rod over a meter long would strike my belly. Screams tore from my throat. I tried to dodge, sobbing, crying out, "Brother, Nien hurts." Another blow fell. "Brother, help me. Brother." Curled on the ground, I called Ha Bichi's name again and again. When I could endure no longer, blood poured from my mouth. Bai Yuanqing sneered, voice dripping with malice. "You should know, Boichi already knew you'd come to the capital. He simply didn't want to see you. He told me to handle it as I wished. You don't know, do you? It was Boichi who ransomed me out of the brothel. He wants me as his wife. This child I carry," she stroked her slightly rounded belly, "is ours. Han Yan, you must accept it. In Bichi's heart, your whole family never mattered as much as me. For me, he'd abandon all of you, even stand by as I destroyed your family." Only then did I realize Ha Boichi had always hated us. He had never truly let go of Bai Yuanqing. In his eyes, it was us who had ruined everything, who had kept him from being with her. Yet he never considered that if Bai Yuanqing hadn't schemed to make me her stand-in, she wouldn't have ended up captured by bandits. Watching her smug face, I resolved to drag her to hell with me. Before she could react, I threw myself at her. She fell heavily to the ground, and soon, dark blood pooled beneath her. Mouth full of blood, I laughed hysterically. "Those lips of yours that have entertained countless men, who's to say that bastard in your belly is really Ha Bichi's?" "Han Yan," Bai Yuanqing shrieked, her face contorted. Suddenly, she clutched her belly and wailed, "Boichi, it hurts, our child. Yuanqing, don't be afraid. I'm here." Ha Boichi ran past me to gather her in his arms, his gaze at me as cold as death. Carrying her away, he didn't spare me another look. When the physician departed, a wretched cry echoed through the house. Bai Yuanqing had lost the child, and now hated me with all her soul. Her voice trembled with murderous rage. "Beat that filthy bitch to death and toss her body to the stray dogs." "Wait." Ha Bichi's voice was icy. "Boichi, our child. I know you grieve," he murmured. "So do I. But there's no need to spill more blood here. I don't want her filth staining your eyes. Just have the servants dispose of her." I thought for a moment he'd shown a trace of conscience, only to learn he simply didn't want my blood sullying his doorstep. Before they dragged me away, I gathered my last strength and screamed, "Ha Boichi, I curse you. May you die, wretched Andawan, with no heir to your name. May your soul never find peace." His furious roar rang out. "Gag her." I was slapped over and over. A filthy rag was stuffed into my mouth. In a narrow alley, the beatings resumed. Blinding pain tore through me. When my body finally began to go numb, I heard the crack of breaking bone. Holding my breath deliberately, I heard the maid's shaky whisper, "I think she fainted. No, she's dead." Time passed. Heavy footsteps approached. "What did the Lord say?" someone asked. "Just dump her in the pauper's graveyard." Even in my fading awareness, I recognized the voice of Ha Bichi's attendant. My heart wrenched. The brother who once shielded me behind his back, had he ever truly existed? They discarded me, still barely clinging to life, among the corpses. When I came to, my spine was shattered. Blood pooled beneath me. I lay in that reeking pit, unable to move, because any movement meant agony tenfold. Rain poured down. I lay among the dead, waiting. At last, a child's voice called out. Song staggered toward me, choking back sobs. Sister, Nien. Our crippled uncle followed behind him. Sister, don't sleep. Please, hold on. Uncle, and I will take you to a physician. Song's eyes were red as he tried to lift me. After so long holding on, I no longer had the strength to shake my head. My voice was faint. Song, sister has to go see mother and father now. Take uncle. Leave this place. Never return to Qing Mountain. That madwoman by Yuan Qing won't spare you. For her sake, Ha Boichi watched me be beaten to death. Tears and blood mingled as they slid down my face. My warmth ebbed away. Song, you must grow up. Protect yourself. Don't let our whole family die in vain. I stroked his hair, then my hand fell limp. As darkness swallowed me, I thought, for all these years, did any of it matter? When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn on the day we fled, just as Ha Boichi had rescued by Yuan Qing and her mother. It was true, he'd fallen in love with her at first sight. As the eldest grandson and a 16-year-old scholar, he was the pride of the family. No matter how disappointed they were, no one ever scolded him too harshly. But this time, reborn, I would never let him drain the Ha family dry again. I would show him that without the Ha family, he'd never have known glory. When I saw him calmly accepting the eggs our grandmother gave him, I snatched them away and shared them with my younger brothers and sisters, who were watching eagerly. Sister. 6-year-old Song swallowed hard but obediently shook his head. He knew only Ha Boichi was entitled to eat such things. I didn't care about the odd looks from everyone. I shoved the egg directly into Song and Xiao Xian's mouths. Eat. You two must grow up strong, so one day your sister can finally enjoy some peace. In my eyes, Song's talent for studying was no less than Ha Bichi's. If Ha Boichi hadn't spent half the family's money, Song wouldn't have been forced to act so sensible, too afraid even to ask to attend school. Once they'd eaten, I turned to Ha Boichi and mocked. Brother, you're so capable, so determined to keep that mother and daughter with no background that you'd even threaten the family. So why are you shamelessly eating what belongs to me? After all, I raised these chickens. Don't think I don't know you already fed her an egg last night. I pointed straight at by Yuan Qing in the distance. Everyone gasped and turned to stare at Ha Boichi. Grandmother clutched her chest and scolded him. You fool. Don't you know your younger brothers and sisters are starving? You think they didn't want to eat? You've read so many books, but it's as if you stuffed them all into a dog's belly. Hearing her, Ha Bichi's face turned red with embarrassment. Right now, he was no favored official of the emperor, just a penniless scholar who couldn't even carry a chicken by himself, completely dependent on the family to support him. It was laughable. An egg the younger ones only got to taste once every 6 months. He could so easily take to please a woman he'd known less than a day. Brother, have you forgotten? If it wasn't for us scraping together money so you could study, this family wouldn't be suffering like this. On the road fleeing disaster, you did nothing, just buried your head in your books all day. Now you're suddenly feeling benevolent, determined to rescue this pair of freeloaders. We're all tightening our belts to survive. Do you mean to drag us all to ruin? The more I spoke, the more resentment I felt, almost wishing I could cut both him and Bai Yuanqing down where they stood. Bai Yuanqing was the illegitimate daughter of a wealthy merchant family, blessed with a stunning face. If not for this famine, she would have long since been sent to marry into some noble household. In this haggard caravan of refugees, it was her beauty and haughty bearing that drew the bandits' attention. Nian, are you still angry with Brother Boichi because of me? Bai Yuanqing spoke, tears shimmering in her eyes. She used the petty tricks she'd learned in the inner courtyards to try to play the victim. When I stayed silent, she lowered her head demurely. If that's the case, then my mother and we won't. Before she could finish, Ha Boichi cut her off coldly. Miss Bai, you don't need to feel guilty. I promised you, I will not abandon you and your mother. Ha Bichi's face was dark. He declared, right there, that the family needn't trouble themselves any further. I will take full responsibility for Miss Bai and her mother's food. You don't need to worry about it. Are you satisfied now?" With that, he flicked his sleeve and walked off, clearly furious that I had humiliated him. Watching him go, I finally saw just how selfish he truly was. From the start, he'd gambled everything on the family's unwillingness to turn their backs on him, just like in my previous life. As long as he collapsed in front of them, they would forgive everything he'd done. He relied on their soft hearts to act without restraint. Under the disapproving stares of the family, I couldn't stay silent anymore. They deserved to know what fate awaited them, to understand the kind of ungrateful creature they'd raised. That night, I told Aitsong to keep watch on Haboichi and the two women. Then, sitting before my weary grandparents and parents, I quietly recounted everything that had happened in my previous life. People say that having elders in the house is like having a treasure. Though grandmother couldn't read, she had always been the guiding light of the family. Of the four, she was the only one who quickly regained her composure. When I finished speaking, silence fell over the room. After a long while, grandmother finally asked, "Nian, why did that woman hate our family so much?" I hugged my knees, the memories of all that bloodshed flooding back. My voice shook. When the bandits came, Bai Yuanqing and I were hiding behind a large rock. As they drew near, she tried to push me out to save herself. I caught her hand and fought back. That was why she was captured. From then on, she hated me to her bones and dragged our entire family down with her. I had never felt I'd done anything wrong. After all, she had truly tried to kill me. My only mistake was clinging to the illusion that Haboichi was still a good brother. Seeing their ashen faces, I forced myself to lay bare every filthy thing Haboichi had done. They needed to know exactly who he was. After losing track of Bai Yuanqing, Haboichi had seemed despondent for a while, but soon he returned to normal, as if she'd never existed. With his talent, everyone admired him. No one ever suspected him of anything. Looking back now, he resented us, but he knew he couldn't survive without our help. That was why, after he reached the capital, he only sent perfunctory letters, never wanting us to follow. I had said all I needed to say. If they still chose to hold on to their illusions, then this family was no place for me to stay. Under their heavy gazes, I spoke coldly. After Bai Yuanqing was taken, Haboichi didn't care whether we lived or died. He insisted on searching for her. Because of his stupidity, we were separated from the villagers. On the road, grandmother was beaten to death by starving refugees. At that, grandfather's face changed. He and grandmother had spent decades together. Haboichi mattered, but he would never outweigh her place in his heart. Seeing grandmother's expression grow dark, I pressed on. "Grandmother, we cannot keep these two women around, or Haboichi. Because of them, our family fell apart." And Haboichi didn't care in the least. All he ever did was glare at us in resentment. Bai Yuanqing is Haboichi's calamity, and they were ours. If I hadn't lived through it myself, I never would have believed that Haboichi would abandon all reason for a woman like her. From start to finish, all his heartache was for Bai Yuanqing, that delicate creature who wept at the drop of a hat. The family's devotion, he took it for granted. Ignoring the storm in their eyes, I stepped forward and clung to grandmother's leg, choking back tears. After the bandits took everything, just so the family could survive, Xiao Xian sold herself into slavery for a single bushel of grain. My little brother, only 2, starved to death because there was nothing to eat. Second aunt, heartbroken, followed him soon after. That's why I never dared tell uncle and aunt. If they knew that all those years, everything they sacrificed was to support an ungrateful wretch like Haboichi. If they knew, they wouldn't just hate him, they'd hate grandfather and grandmother too. By the time we made it through the famine, there would be no Ha family left. When I saw grandmother believe me at last, I turned to my parents. "Father, mother, let go of Haboichi. If you insist on supporting him, then at least set uncle's family free. Don't make them suffer for him any longer. As for me, I'll take the younger ones and leave. Even if we end up as servants in some rich household, we will never again sacrifice ourselves for that ungrateful man." Of all of them, mother was the hardest to sway. In her eyes, Haboichi was her pride, the only child who brought her honor. In this world where the poor rarely had a chance to study, Haboichi had always been their only hope of rising above their station. They couldn't bear to let that go. The shock was too great. Grandfather tapped his cane on the ground. only telling me to rest and stop worrying. Seeing that grandmother stayed silent, I couldn't help but speak one last time before leaving. Grandfather, grandmother, if you believe Habuichi can replace me and the younger ones, and you still wish to treat him as before, then consider tonight's words unsaid. But in my heart, I thought coldly, I will not let him survive. Within 2 days, he would collapse on the road. He'd never hesitate to damage his own health if it meant tightening his hold on everyone's hearts. I could wait a little longer. Sooner or later, the truth would reveal itself. That night finally passed without incident. At dawn, I woke to see everyone packing up to set out again. Everyone except Habuichi, who kept glancing over at grandmother. Beside him, Bai Yuanqing was smiling sweetly, as if nothing had happened. As the only one in the family who studied, Habuichi had always held a special status. Even as we fled for our lives, he still got 3 meals a day and an egg every 10 days. But today, grandmother no longer indulged him. He pretended to have forgotten everything he said the night before, his expression hesitant, wanting to speak, but holding back. Afraid that mother would sneak something to make up for him, I walked over to grandmother and whispered, "Grandmother, I'd like to make a bowl of egg soup for my little brother." Grandmother paused, hesitant, but after thinking for a moment, she handed me the rest of the eggs. Just like that, all the remaining eggs were tucked safely into my pouch. I would guard them carefully, whether my brother lived might depend on them. "Brother," I called, turning to Habuichi with a bright smile, "don't look at grandmother with that pitiful face anymore. From now on, you're like the rest of us, 2 meals a day, coarse corn cakes with bitter greens. That's yours. Take it and get moving." I pointed to the bundle under the big tree. "Nian, don't be so rude to your brother," mother scolded, unable to help defending him. "Let Xiao Xian carry his things." People always say hearing something is never as real as seeing it. Even though she knew that in my last life, father had been framed and ruined by Yuanqing's schemes, she still clung to her illusions about her precious son. I ignored her. As I passed by, I kicked the bundle and pulled silent Xiao Xian along. "Xiao Xian, don't bother. Everyone should carry their own burdens. Does he really think the rest of us are his servants?" Xiao Xian was a quiet, unloved child, but this sister would love her. Because of their luggage, Habuichi and Bai Yuanqing struggled along the road. Out of pity for Bai Yuanqing's delicate state, he stubbornly refused to let her help him. I'd overestimated him. As soon as night fell, a shrill cry came from the forest. Bai Yuanqing stumbled out before grandfather and grandmother, eyes red from crying. "Habuichi, he's not going to make it." Grandfather and grandmother both looked at me, then at each other. In their gaze, I saw disappointment. By the time I arrived, the old village physician was already there, frowning over Habuichi's pulse and saying nothing. "Grandfather, grandmother." Habuichi began coughing weakly. "My body has failed me. In the future, I fear I won't be able to care for you. Please, take care of yourselves." Father and mother grew flustered. I could see their hearts already tipping toward him again. I glanced at Habuichi's pitiful act. Leaning on my strength, I shoved Bai Yuanqing to the ground, pinned her, and began searching her sleeves. "Hanyan, you shameless thing. Let me go?" Bai Yuanqing screeched. "What's this?" I lifted the folded paper in my hand so everyone could see. Bai Yuanqing lunged for it, but I dodged her easily. Her face flushed with anger. "That's mine. You have no right. Give it back." Ignoring her, I handed the packet to the old physician. "I suspect this is why my dear brother suddenly fell ill. Miss Bai, this isn't the imperial harem. You don't need to stoop to such dirty tricks here." When the physician confirmed Habuichi had taken medicine that made him collapse, and we all saw the evidence, mother's face darkened. She looked at Habuichi with a gaze almost like that of a stranger. Suddenly, she lunged at Bai Yuanqing, seized her by the hair, and slapped her across the face. "You wretched woman! Who told you to endanger my son's life? He treated you so well, why repay kindness with malice?" Watching mother's outburst, if I still couldn't guess her heart, I'd have wasted this second chance at life. Seeing Habuichi squeeze his eyes shut, refusing to respond, I laughed coldly. "Mother, rest a moment. Leave Bai Yuanqing to me. I promise I'll handle her properly." Then, deliberately loud, I called, "Song, fetch me a hoe. I'll personally send this ungrateful leech on her way." Sister. Song stared at me, terrified. "Hurry. Hanyan, how dare you? When Aitsong actually ran to get the hoe, Haboichi finally panicked. He struggled to sit up, glaring at me in outrage. I looked back at him and smiled sweetly. Brother, don't you already know whether I dare or not? We're refugees now. Killing a person isn't much different from killing a chicken, just one swing of the hoe. Taking the hoe from Aitsong's trembling hands, I walked toward Bai Yuanqing step by step. She turned white as a sheet, cringing away. And Haboichi, he didn't disappoint me. Before I could even reach her, he finally broke. That's enough. He shouted. Miss Bai didn't poison me. I drank it myself. I know. I'm nothing but a burden to all of you. Even my sister thinks I'm useless. His voice trailed off in self-pity. Disgust rose in my throat. I threw the hoe aside and yelled. You really are worthless. As a grandson and son, you defy your elders. That's unfilial. As a brother, you bully the younger ones. That's inhuman. You never intended to die. Drinking her poison was just another ploy, so everyone would fuss over you again, and we'd be forced to accept your precious Bai Yuanqing. When I laid everything bare, the villagers finally stirred. Under their accusing stares, Habichi's face twisted. Overcome with shame, he fainted on the spot. I had never planned to kill Bai Yuanqing here. Even if she died, all it would bring was Habichi's undying hatred. She would always be the most unforgettable presence in his memories. Since he adored his precious Yuanqing so much, I was curious, would they cling to each other as they had in the last life? Habichi's true nature was now clear. No matter how much my parents tried to fool themselves, grandfather and grandmother wouldn't stand by him anymore. After all, even if you raised a top scholar, if his heart was black, he would still be ungrateful. Around midnight, several people sat around the fire discussing what came next. Grandfather said heavily, so be it. If Boichi is so fond of that woman, when things settle, let him marry her. Habichi's eyes lit up, but before he could be happy, grandfather continued. After the wedding, we'll divide the household. From then on, second brother's family won't have to feed him. You all should start planning for your own children. Second uncle opened his mouth, but in the end, he only nodded numbly. Grandfather had always insisted the family stay united. Tonight, he looked far older. But this day would have come sooner or later. As for Bichi's studies, let's not speak of them again. A person should know gratitude. You can't treat your family's kindness as something you deserve by right, or you'll only freeze people's hearts. He sighed, eyes full of disappointment as he looked at Haboichi. Hearing his words, Haboichi went pale. For once, he forgot all his polished manners. He knelt and kowtowed frantically. Grandfather, I was wrong. I was just confused. Please, don't be disappointed in me. I still have dreams. I want to make a better life for all of us. Please, let me keep studying. I swear I can do it. But this time, no matter how he begged, grandfather didn't waver. Leaning against a tree, I watched Haboichi abase himself for the sake of his ambitions. I let out a cold laugh. Suddenly, Aitsong, who was chewing a blade of sweetgrass, nudged my arm, curious. Sister, do you think brother will still get to study? Noticing Xiao Xian pause in the middle of weaving grass shoes, I patted her head gently. No, I answered firmly. But I think father and mother will soften. They always favor him. Aitsong pouted, finally looking like the child he was. I lifted my eyes to the starry sky, my voice calm. That depends on whether he still has the means to study. And grandfather and grandmother won't allow it. Don't worry, your sister will take care of everything. Sometimes, accidents aren't really accidents at all. If I hadn't acted yet, it was only because the time wasn't right. Since no one could bring themselves to cast him out completely, then they shouldn't blame me for being ruthless. After he was forbidden from studying, Haboichi grew even more silent, like an empty shell without a single thought left. Under grandmother's pressure, no matter how unwilling Bai Yuanqing was, she and Haboichi were formally bound together before the entire village. Nian, give me an egg. I've seen how much weight your brother has lost these past days. I want to make him some egg soup. It had only been half a month, and already mother had softened again. I lowered my gaze, my face blank. There aren't any left. I ate them all. When she looked ready to scold me, I lost my patience and snapped. Look at him, pretending like that. He deserves to eat. After all the food he's gobbled down, what has he accomplished? Nothing. He's a useless waste of space. Mother, you're unbelievable. He's like this already, and you're still so eager to throw your warm heart at his cold back. Mother looked stunned, unable to respond. In the end, father pulled her away. Now, I was infamous for being vicious. People said I'd even dared to threaten lives. No one dared provoke me anymore. Not even Bai Yuanqing dared to come near, hoping for attention. Brother Boichi, please eat something. Bai Yuanqing crouched in front of him, pressing a bowl of wild vegetable soup into his hands. It's not your fault they won't let you study. They're just blind. Once I find my father, I'll have him help you. He always cared for me. She was still clinging to her silly dreams. In my previous life, her so-called father had never even shown up, much less sought justice for her. As we neared the place where the bandits had attacked us before, I smeared ointment over everyone's faces. Now, the entire group really did look like starving refugees on the brink of death. I don't want this filthy stuff. Take it off. It stinks. I heard Bai Yuanqing's voice dripping with contempt. I walked over, smiling as I pressed my blade to her throat, slicing a thin line of blood. Oh, I almost forgot about you. The ugly broom cluttering up my sight. Seeing I really would draw blood, she swallowed nervously, her voice trembling. Han Yan, I'm your brother's betrothed now. The elder sister-in-law is like a mother. You can't treat me this way. Mother, I said sweetly, turning to glance at my mother. She's cursing you dead. Mother's face turned ugly at once. Bai Yuanqing fell silent, not daring to say another word. I forced her toward a stinking puddle of mud on the verge of drying out. Then I kicked her straight into it. You take one more step, and I'll show you how that mud tastes. Her mother lowered her head in embarrassment and turned away without a word, no matter how Bai Yuanqing called after her. My ointment isn't worthy of you. This is your true paradise. Since you love making a spectacle so much, let me help you, so everyone remembers you. Bai Yuanqing struggled to stand. I grabbed her hair and shoved her face down into the filth. 4 or 5 times I repeated it before letting go. For someone obsessed with cleanliness, this must have been the worst torture imaginable. Don't look at me with that pitiful face, I told her coolly. I'm not the type to pity delicate flowers. If your presence ever brings disaster on us again, I'll skin you and make a lantern from your hide. The bandits hadn't originally planned to target refugees. But in my past life, Bai Yuanqing had screamed, her lovely voice catching their attention. When we reached the mountain pass, the ground was littered with corpses and fresh blood. Everyone's face went pale as chalk. No one dared to breathe too loudly. We slipped past faster than ever. Bai Yuanqing, stinking from head to toe, stepped on a bloody hand. She opened her mouth to scream, only for me to shove a filthy rag in it. Then I bound her wrists. All she could do was let out muffled whimpers. With no hysterical outburst to alert anyone, the village safely escaped the fate we'd suffered before. Running was always dangerous. Remembering the day the famine finally ended in my previous life, I glanced at Ha Boichi. These days, he behaved much more tamely. But human nature is the most treacherous thing of all. If I wanted him to fall completely into the abyss, I had to sever every last tie at the root. Bai Yuanqing was vain and couldn't endure hardship. So when we passed through Shuana Prefecture and everyone stopped to replenish supplies, she traded her last bits of jewelry for some fine white flour. That day, I was keeping watch as I walked. I noticed a group of refugees trailing us at a distance, their hollow eyes and blank expressions revealing their intentions. Before we set out, the village chief had warned us never to share rations with strangers. So when a woman carrying a child came begging, everyone pretended not to see. Only when she passed by Yuanqing did she stop, groveling and weeping, clutching at her leg. Kind lady, please, have pity on my child. If he doesn't eat, he'll die. Maybe kneeling there made Bai Yuanqing feel powerful, like she was some benevolent noble. With a patronizing look, she took out a white flour cake and tossed it to the woman. But before the cake even hit the ground, the lurking refugees lunged. Chaos erupted. Bai Yuanqing and Ha Boichi disappeared under a tide of bodies. Their screams rang out, raw and desperate. Run! Seeing the crowd growing, I shouted at the top of my lungs, dragging Aitsong and Xiao Xian with me as I bolted forward. The villagers finally snapped out of it and fled too. Once we'd gained some distance, I tightened my grip on the cleaver I'd spent days sharpening. Keep going, I told Xiao Xian. Protect Aitsong. If anyone tries to steal from you, kill them. Sister, don't go back. Xiao Xian grabbed my sleeve, eyes shining with fear. It's fine. I know what I'm doing. I turned and sprinted back toward the melee, slashing at anyone who dared block my way. Rescuing them was a lie. What I really wanted was to sever Habichi's future in the examinations forever. Death would be too easy for them. I would destroy everything they treasured most. The pain I'd once endured, they would taste it too, in flesh and spirit alike. Blending into the frenzied crowd, I saw Habuichi being knocked to the ground. I threw down half a stale vegetable cake, then kicked him hard as I slipped past. "Look, he's got food on him," a burly man shouted, pointing. Before Habuichi could react, a dozen starving hands descended. "Ah, get off me, my leg. Don't step on my leg." His screams tore through the chaos. After a while, the mob realized there was nothing left to steal. They drifted away like soulless husks. I smeared blood across my face and hurried over, voice soft. "Brother, are you all right?" Habuichi was left in nothing but an undershirt, his eyes red as he gripped my hand. "Nien, my leg, it hurts, help me." I looked solemnly at his mangled calf, then shook my head and stepped back. "There's nothing I can do. We'll have to find a physician. For now, you'll just have to endure." His shin was clearly broken. At last, I felt utterly at ease. Suddenly, a shriek split the air. "Brother Boichi, help!" I turned. Bai Yuanqing was being dragged away by two leering men. "Con." Habuichi tried to stand, but collapsed with a strangled cry. His gaze found me, full of panic. "Nien, go save her. She's your future sister-in-law." He sounded so righteous, never thinking that I was only 13, and that I, too, could die. Seeing him clutching at false virtue, I pretended to sigh. "Fine." When I reached them, Bai Yuanqing had already lost consciousness. The men were halfway through tearing off her clothes. From behind, I swung the cleaver in a single arc. One man clutched his throat, eyes wide, and collapsed face first in the dirt. His companion, realizing too late that his partner had died with his eyes open, turned to react, only to have a handful of yellow dust thrown into his face. He died the same way. Making sure no one else was nearby, I looked down at the unconscious Bai Yuanqing. I picked up a jagged stone and slashed her face, deep and long. Just in case, I crippled her left arm as well. Habuichi with a broken leg, Bai Yuanqing disfigured and maimed, all thanks to a single white flour cake that sparked a riot among the refugees. No more exams. No more seducing men with her beauty. Truly, the two of them were a perfect match, condemned to be shackled together in misery for the rest of their lives. When I carried Bai Yuanqing back, I made sure I was covered in blood and pretended to faint. When she woke and realized her face had been ruined, she couldn't accept it. She kept insisting I had hurt her. Annoyed by her whining, Xiaoxian stepped up and slapped her hard, sharp and ringing. "My sister risked her life to save you. Now she's lying unconscious, covered in wounds, and she was vomiting blood yesterday. You can't even say thank you. Instead you dare accuse her. You're nothing but a treacherous white-eyed wolf who should have been left behind." Hearing the villagers whispering and pointing, Bai Yuanqing finally fell silent. "Second sister, I want big sister." Beside us, Eitzung burst into tears, sobbing so hard it sounded like mourning. If he'd said I'd already died, it wouldn't have surprised me. "Con, don't start," Habuichi said, voice tired and irritated. "I was the one who begged Nien to save you. She nearly died doing it. How could she have harmed you?" I had to admit, Xiaoxian was clever. And Habuichi, for once, was the perfect accomplice, wiping away any suspicion of me completely. Just like my previous life, a great storm came. Not long after, the deposed crown prince and his consort led troops into the capital, ending the 3-month migration. Now, the deposed crown prince was emperor, and peace had returned. Local governments began resettling the refugees. Those who wished to return home were given 3 taels of silver each for travel expenses. Those who didn't could report to the county office with their household registration to receive 1 tael each and await relocation. A few families from our village decided to return. The rest, like us, were assigned to Wufu village, which nestled against the mountains with a river nearby. Bai Yuanqing tried to follow, wearing a veil. But when her hand touched her scarred face and limp arm, she couldn't bring herself to speak. Now, she was as good as crippled, forced to depend on Habuichi. Before we'd even settled, Habuichi started making a scene about seeing a physician to heal his leg. He still hadn't given up on the imperial exams. The new emperor had only just ascended the throne, and this was exactly when officials were recruiting talented men everywhere. But it didn't matter. The outcome was already set. No matter how he struggled, it was useless. The empress herself was an extraordinary woman. As the daughter of a great general, she and the emperor had weathered storms side by side. Because of their bond, when she proposed that women be allowed to run businesses and establish independent households, the emperor agreed and set a new precedent. But that was only the beginning. 2 years later, in my previous life, word spread that women could even study medicine. In the capital, clinics would require that half of all new apprentices be female, chosen through examinations, a remarkable step toward fairness. She understood how low women's status was, how many limitations bound them. So she used tuition fees to give some the chance to escape the fate of marrying and raising children, shaking the old beliefs ever so slightly. To all the women in the empire, the empress was a beacon, a faint light that still glowed in the darkness. At last, the Ha family divided the household property. The day after Ha Buiqi married by Yuanqing, they were split off. Outwardly, people said it was so the young couple could manage their own affairs. But one spent his days cursing fate, sulking in resentment. The other hid behind a veil, too ashamed to show her face, constantly taunted by the local children. As for Bai Yuanqing's selfish, spineless mother, no one even bothered to mention her. Their life was truly pathetic to behold. One day, Xiao Xian came running up, her eyes bright. She stuffed a piece of dried plum into my mouth. "Sister, is it good? It's delicious, sweet and sour, with a bit of licorice, and something I can't describe." Xiao Xian lit up with joy, then suddenly snatched up a shovel and started preparing food with manic energy. "Sister, could you help me sell some? I know you've been gathering herbs to pay for Song to go to school. I want to help too." She clutched the hem of my sleeve, looking shy. I nodded, smiling. "Of course. Women can do business now, you know. However much you make, I'll sell it all for you." Xiao Xian rarely spoke much, but she always warmed people's hearts in quiet ways. Compared to Ha Buiqi, who was full of lofty words about virtue, she was so sensible it made my chest ache. Her licorice plums were one of a kind, and she had real talent for it. When I took them to the county market, they sold for 26 won per jean. By noon, all 25 jean were gone. Our savings grew fast. While it was still plum season, Xiao Xian began producing even more. Seeing her so busy she barely touched the ground, I brushed her sweaty hair behind her ear and sighed. You can't eat a whole elephant in one bite. If it's too much, rest a while, or hire help. The plums were already famous in town. Even if someone tried to copy them, everyone could tell they were hers. It was time to think about hiring assistants. When she only hung her head, I went on gently. "This is your skill, your way to make a living. It has to be your choice. I can't always be here, and I can't keep managing everything. But I think Second Aunt is clever and steady. Why not ask if she'll help you? Pay her wages. In the meantime, I'll bring her along to get some experience." "All right." She finally nodded. While Xiao Xian focused on her work, I sold the herbs I'd gathered, and then proposed enrolling Song in school. That was when Ha Buiqi completely broke down. Drunk, he staggered in front of me, voice hoarse with rage. "Han Yen, did you do this on purpose? You know I've lost my chance to study, so why bring it up now?" Watching him fall apart, I kept my face solemn. "Brother, that's too much. How could I be doing this on purpose? Song is old enough to learn. Xiao Xian and I earned this money ourselves. Why shouldn't we spend it on him? Or do you think that because you can't read, no one else should be allowed to either?" I held his gaze steadily and spoke the words he could never admit out loud. I won't deny it. I did do it on purpose. To watch someone else get the thing he'd always longed for, while he could do nothing. Anyone would lose their mind. And I loved seeing it, that moment when it pierced straight through his heart. They always say that honor and disgrace are shared, blessings and misfortunes born together. "Buiqi, you've grown more selfish than ever." Grandfather arrived, sighed, and shook his head, clearly disappointed to the core. Rebuked, Ha Buiqi collapsed to his knees, mumbling in despair. Why? Why does heaven treat me so unfairly? I was born with talent and ambition, only to have it all destroyed by these crippled legs. I can't accept it. Tears streamed down his face as he pounded his ruined legs with his fists. The villagers only thought it was heaven envying a gifted man. Only I knew it was his retribution, karma for all the lives destroyed because of him. This broke what remained of Habichi's spirit. He grew sullen, quick to rage. At the slightest displeasure, he would drink himself into a stupor and beat by Yuanqing without restraint. There were no more moonlit poems or tender verses between them, only the bitter struggle to survive a life whose end you could see at a glance. On the day I took Song to meet his teacher, I made him promise me 3 things. First, I said, whatever you learn in school, you must teach me and second sister when you come home. All right. I watched him carefully. His small face was earnest, no trace of impatience. Second, I continued, I won't spoil you the way our parents did Habuichi. Whatever needs doing, you will do it yourself. During the busy seasons, you'll work in the fields with me. Weak scholars have no place in this family. If I ever catch you picking up those bad habits, I'll break your legs myself. I didn't give him a chance to object. Third, your sisters aren't here to let you loaf around. I know you're smart, so I expect you to pass the exams and become a good official to protect this family and serve the people. And don't you dare turn out like Habuichi, bringing home worthless women. Scholars are often the most heartless. But with Habuichi as a cautionary tale, I would watch over Song personally. I refused to believe his roots would twist the same way. I understand, sister, Song said solemnly. I swear I will never disappoint you or second sister. And he didn't. He studied diligently, but never buried himself in books. At home, he always helped with whatever chores he could manage. Those quiet, steady years lasted 2 years, until the news arrived that women were now allowed to study medicine. I carried the ginseng I'd dug with such effort to the village physician, pleading with him to take me as his apprentice. Master, I said, you see, the capital allows women to study medicine now. All your old excuses are worthless. I know you need ginseng. Consider this my formal offering. Please, take me as your student. Though he had occasionally given me advice, I was still just a dabbler, only able to use a few tricks to intimidate people. The old physician lived alone, and as he aged, he was finding it harder to manage. His bad temper kept everyone at a distance. To this day, he had never found a successor to pass on his knowledge. When he saw I was serious, he stayed silent for a long time before finally speaking. Think carefully. I'm no miracle doctor, just an old man who can cure some ailments. I won't regret it, I said. Thank you, master. Thank you for giving me this chance. I bowed deeply, sincere to my core. After grandmother helped me prepare the proper offerings, I officially began studying medicine under him. In the 6th year of Tsangtai, Song, only 12 years old, passed the preliminary exam and became a Tongshan, eligible to take the imperial exams. Meanwhile, I, absorbed in my studies, had become the most notorious spinster in the village. When I refused all talk of marriage, my mother and I fought bitterly, so badly we nearly severed ties. Every woman in the world marries, mother shouted. Why must you be the only one defying all decency? It wasn't about lacking a suitable match. Even if there were, I had no intention of marrying. I had too many things left to do, and bearing children had never been on my list. In the end, she gave up. Knowing she feared gossip, I went to the county office, paid a hefty sum, and registered my own independent household. I built a small house at the edge of the village. Apart from treating patients, I rarely left it. One day, Xiao Xian came to see me while I was grinding medicine. I looked her up and down and smiled. You've grown into a fine young lady. When her cheeks flushed pink, I grew serious. But I have to warn you. If mother tries to arrange a marriage for you, don't agree. You're still too young. Early marriage is bad for your health. And once Song has earned his degree, you'll have more choices. Whatever happens, tell me. Don't bear it alone. Over 6 years, Xiao Xian's preserved fruits and candies had earned her a fine reputation. She'd built a little workshop in the village. To outsiders, she was already a successful businesswoman, pleasant to look at, literate, poised, with her own skills. No doubt, a prize worth fighting over. I understand, sister, she said, nodding hard and squeezing my hand. At 22, my master passed away. At 15, Song became a Shiozai, ranking first in his prefecture, an even greater feat than Habichi's once had been. When the county yamen sent a messenger to announce the news, Habuichi only hid in the shadows, watching. Song was so outstanding that no one even remembered Habichi's name. That same year, Xiao Xian, 18, married, after much thought, to the son of an escort agency owner. Well-traveled and open-minded, her husband respected her and encouraged her to keep doing what she loved. After she was married and had settled her affairs, I planned to follow Aitsong and see the world. But before I could leave, Ha Boichi, whom I had long since forgotten, came looking for me. Years of hardship had turned him into a dark-skinned farmer in coarse homespun. He barely spoke anymore. Nothing remained of the scholar he once was. Nian. His eyes were red, holding a strange flicker of hope. Back then, was it you? Were you the one behind it all? Ha Boichi wasn't a fool. I'd never thought I could hide it forever. It was only a matter of time. I didn't know how much he'd guessed, but I refused to admit it. You're overthinking it, brother. I know you resent your fate, but you can't pin something so enormous on me. Have you ever thought, I added softly, that all of this began because you insisted on sheltering by Yuanqing and her mother? If you must resent someone, resent her. She was always your disaster. Even now, knowing how wretched her life had become, I felt no pity. A selfish, venomous woman deserved to spend her days rotting in the dark. He looked at me, eyes full of complicated emotions. Then he gave a bitter laugh. You're right. This is all my retribution, my punishment for betraying my family, for coveting beauty. I deserve everything I've become. Nian, I didn't know it would turn out like this. But in the end, it was all my fault from the start. He turned and limped away. His thin shoulders were steeped in a kind of decay, like an old man already halfway to the grave. Even knowing he was unraveling, I couldn't be bothered to care. They were just Ha Boichi and Bai Yuanqing, nothing more. After that day, he changed. He no longer flinched at the mention of study, but he began tormenting Bai Yuanqing, swinging between tenderness and violence. Sometimes he treated her gently, as if she were still precious. Other times, he beat her so badly there was not a single unbruised inch left on her body. The neighbor lady once told me that late at night, from the room next door, you could always hear Bai Yuanqing's hoarse, painful sobs. After so much abuse, her mind began to slip. The slightest noise could send her into a panic. She wouldn't even dare show her face anymore. Eventually, she became the village madwoman, doing nothing all day but circling Ha Boichi with a vacant smile. The two of them were a joke to everyone. Until the day they died, they were trapped in that village, tormenting each other to the bitter end. In August, Aitsong set the provincial exams again and passed. At 15, he became the youngest juror in all of Dathin. By then, he had grown steady, sharper in thought, and ever more determined. When he learned I intended to become the first female imperial physician in the Tai court, he frowned. After a long silence, he looked at me as if something had finally dawned on him. Then, in a disapproving voice, he said, "Sister, you're too naive. This world isn't as simple as you think. The first to do anything always suffers the most. Sometimes it costs blood. Even that woman you admire. These past years, she hasn't escaped the scholar's ridicule. To be honest, I think she's too ambitious." I didn't know when it happened, but the little boy who'd once only reached my waist had grown into a proper official, using the cool tone of a politician to judge what he deemed unworthy. In a world that valued men and despised women, even he was deeply shaped by those beliefs. He thought women should follow the old rules, marry, bear children, and live under a man's shadow no matter how bright their talents. It was the first time Aitsong and I had ever disagreed so completely. I didn't bother trying to persuade him. There was no point. He was only one of countless men who thought this way. "Sister, please don't go. That place isn't meant for you. You'll regret it." I wasn't moved. Gazing at the rippling lake, I spoke quietly. I chose this path knowing exactly what it would cost. Some things in this world simply must be done, no matter the risk, no matter the sacrifice. She was brave enough to blaze a trail. If we still cower in fear, how can we live with ourselves? "But you can't change anything," he burst out, his voice cracking with anger. "Don't you understand? You're nothing. Trying to challenge 1,000 years of tradition will get you erased." I understood. From his vantage as a rising star, this was all a trivial footnote in history, something that would eventually be forgotten. But he didn't see what I did. Even the smallest footnote was enough to inspire countless women to rise up. I looked at him, my gaze unwavering. The strength of one woman is small, yes. But the strength of thousands upon thousands, how small is that? History always moves forward. Men change, and so do women. There is no such thing as a dead end, only awakening and resistance in the face of despair. These years, Xiao Xian has been growing into herself. So have I. We both believe that water can wear down stone. But I shook my head and smiled, bright as the sun. So what if I'm erased? I've always believed there will be countless cycles of struggle until success comes. Even if I never live to see that future, I can imagine how brilliant those women will be. Seeing his expression soften, I spoke earnestly. Song, you promised me you would be a good official, a loyal minister. Don't get drawn into those bitter power struggles. Let these people exist. I know how gifted you are. I've never regretted sending you to study. Someday I will still rely on you, when you've climbed to the heights of power. And Song, never once have I felt ashamed to be born a woman. If this were a world of true equality, I don't believe my abilities would be any less than yours. This road is too hard, too rough, but someone has to walk it. Just like that first flickering lamp, just like the countless others who came before me. At last, seeing my determination, Song could only sigh. He promised in a low voice. A true man keeps his word. I swore to you once, sister, I will never forget. If I break that vow, may heaven strike me down. That conversation ended with Song's solemn oath. Together, we set out for the capital. Soon after, the emperor personally named Song the top scholar of the new examination. And with his actions, he made it clear his loyalty was to the throne alone. In the 11th year of Tsangtai, Song, unwilling to be caught in factional strife, requested a post in Dam Prefecture, where bandits still roamed. He planned to prove himself in hardship and someday return to be truly valued. He'd chosen the road he believed he had to walk. When he left, I entered the medical academy as a mere errand girl. Only then did I understand how grueling a woman's path in medicine truly was. The silent hostility alone was enough to crush anyone. Though there were nearly as many female apprentices as male, not a single woman had ever risen to stand on her own. They feared the unknown, so they suppressed it. It took 6 years to climb from errand girl to licensed physician. By then, Song had risen from a 9th-rank county magistrate to a 5th-rank prefect. Because of his excellence, the emperor valued him highly. He became a trusted aide with a boundless future. In the 21st year of Tsangtai, plague broke out in the capital. Using what I'd learned and notes left behind by past healers, I devised a treatment that curbed the outbreak. That was the year the common people first knew my name. The following year, when I was 35, I entered the imperial medical court, becoming the first fully recognized female physician in Dathin, someone whose name would be recorded in history. If the empress had been the lamp lighting the way, I was the one who carried it forward. I don't know what the historians will write about me, but my very existence proved that women could practice medicine, that we were never less than men. Extra, the previous life. The day the Ha household was confiscated, Ha Boichi, already frail and aged, dreamed again. In the dream, his family still lived. They all shared a humble mud brick house, poor, yes, but filled with peace and laughter. Master, it's time for your medicine. He felt someone calling to him. When he opened his eyes, he saw only the dark, musty room and his own withered hands. He knew it had been a dream. Ha Boichi accepted the bowl, swallowing with effort. He was no longer the high minister who once held power over life and death. He was just an old man on the brink of death. They said he'd retired to the countryside, but in truth, he had nowhere left to go, no kin to rely on. Just as Han Nian had cursed him, he had ended up alone, with no descendants. Master, Li Dudu has surrounded the estate with troops. His steward burst in, wild-eyed. Ha Boichi choked on the bitter medicine, coughing violently. How dare he? Before he could finish, a voice interrupted. Ha Darren, His Majesty has learned of your embezzlement. I am here to see it resolved. Men, arrest them all. Soldiers flooded in. The courtyard filled with bound concubines and servants. Only Bai Yuanqing still shrieked defiantly. I am a noblewoman of the first rank, personally ennobled by His Majesty. You're just a eunuch. How dare you touch me? Hair wild, she still clung to her so-called dignity, her eyes full of scorn. Li Dudu only smiled coldly. Such contempt. Fine, gouge out her eyes. At his signal, soldiers dragged her away. Though their love had long rotted away, decades of dependence made Ha Bichi's voice crack. How dare you kill her without cause? I demand to see the emperor. Li Dudu snorted, half lidding his eyes in disinterest. Master, she's fainted, someone reported. Wake her up, Li Dudu said flatly. She should be conscious to feel her eyes taken out. Then throw her to the wolves. Let them bond properly. A moment later, Bai Yuanqing's piercing screams echoed through the estate. She wailed Habichi's name. Don't you fear retribution? He croaked. Retribution? Li Dudu sneered. Compared to you, I'm nothing. You were the most ruthless of all. After basking in wealth and power, you crushed your own blood for a wicked woman. Seeing you end up alone is justice itself. You, a hypocrite and traitor like you deserves to be cursed forever. Are you Song? Habichi's face went chalk white as he collapsed. Li Dudu didn't deny it. He stepped closer, holding out his hand. Do you know who these hands buried? Do you know my own sister died in a mass grave, her body never found? Do you know what I endured to stand here today? Every question left Habuichi speechless. Then, as if something finally clicked, he lurched toward the steward, seizing his sleeve with shaking fingers. How dare you lie to me? I told you, save her. The steward bowed low, voice hollow. It was Madame's order, master. I didn't dare disobey. The truth crushed him. Blood flooded his mouth as he collapsed. Take him away. Song set down his teacup and stepped toward the light. Habuichi died that day, strangled with a coarse rope. In his final moment, he thought, if I could do it all again, I would repay every debt. And he was reborn. Only this time, he returned to the moment when nothing could be saved, crippled, abandoned, and ruined. The end.